Hello, my name's George Crowder. I'm the Regional Director for Church Society, and I'm going to be talking about local partnerships. A church is family. That's not just the local church. In James Hughes' session, he talked about the wider church as a wider family, and that brother and sister language in the New Testament. And he told us a word, translocal. When you meet Christians you've never met before, there's that instant relational capital. Our fellowship with Christ extends beyond the local church, and koinonia, our unity with Christ, is used to describe fellowship in the local church and in partnership between local churches. Now, we always quote Paul thanking God for partnership in the gospel in Philippians 1 verse 5. Philippi was one of the Macedonian churches with Berea and Thessaloniki. And they identified together as a group. And Paul spoke of their example as a group. A famous example is their generosity in 2 Corinthians 8 and 9. But they did that as a partnership of churches. Anglican ecclesiology is built on this principle of partnership between churches. That is far from perfect. There have been better expressions of Reformed episcopacy, but they had other problems, and it has become corrupt. Human beings are involved, so that's not a surprise. We are naive to think that we can set up some new thing that won't just as easily be susceptible to some other evil. Well, for us, there are two levels of relationship beyond the local church. And the first is our relationship with the good old deanery, diocese and denomination. And we must try to work within the structures as best we can. Seek to have a positive influence. In the end, we want to reform the Church of England for the sake of England, for the sake of our nation and the gospel. So we seek to extend fellowship with those who, they might not be with us on secondary issues, but with encouragement will stand together on Bible teaching, on gospel mission. And that's a really helpful thing to do as we work within the structures. And I could say more about that, but I want to encourage you with the second thing. And that's our relationship with like-minded evangelicals. The people who are with us were also in the structures of the Church of England. Now, this is not to set up a new ecclesiastical empire where we can make up our own rules and give no heed to our inherited hierarchy. It's not about that. You might like that idea. It might seem like a dream, but it's not that. It's to help us to do ministry, ordinary ministry, and be faithful in the way that the wider structures actually should do, but really perhaps don't do. It's just making up for what's lacking in the current incarnation of the wider church in England. In fact, to go back to the first thing, in order to be effective working within the structures, local partnership is about the best thing we can have. I'm in the Chester diocese, and we have a group called the Chester Association. And when we set that up, one of the first things that we did was encourage the members, the people who came along, to stand for diocesan synod. And then we made sure that we had at least one representative on every committee and everything that's going on and involved in every process. And that was not like to be a policeman. It was to have a positive impact in the diocese, for people to see that we were genuinely contributing. And at the same time, to know that we are committed to the historical doctrines of the church. But that's not the only thing that we get together for. In fact, it's not the main thing. The main thing is just fellowship, to eat together, to hear from each other, to share news, to ask for advice. You couldn't get advice from any other group, to teach one another, to listen to good teaching together, to discuss. To build this kind of relationship between church leaders means that we can stand together on the truth and, importantly, we can hold one another to account. But our shared foundation of faith is the springboard for our shared commitment to mission. And like many other groups, the Renew agenda has focused our minds on pioneering, establishing and securing healthy Anglican churches. And like many, we've produced a short document with some mission goals to work towards under each of those categories. I think this chimes beautifully with the New Testament church. You know when church leaders work in partnership to support local churches and to start new ones. And we gather together in smaller groups for different things, like read books together and discuss them, or listen to one another's sermons and give feedback. That is a wonderfully positive way of keeping each other accountable. And as we meet, we build up trust, we get to know each other. And that means we can start to open up a bit more, confess our weaknesses, our worries, and our struggles with sin. Keep our ministry accountable, keep focused on the gospel. And like the Macedonian churches and the Jerusalem churches, we can offer financial support to each other. Some groups have set up a gospel trust, but some do it informally, forming a relationship maybe between a larger church and a smaller church. That's a very fruitful thing. To keep Bible teaching local churches going strong, we need partnership in all these ways. The world is lost in darkness. Our denomination is sliding into heresy. It might be slower and less decisive, but it is much better to act together and not alone in response to heresy. And to do that, we need to know each other well and trust each other. Trust where we can go and where we can't go. It takes time to build that kind of relationship. You may have heard the term visible differentiation. It's a thing that we have to do together if we're going to do it. It's a positive statement of our shared conviction, so we need to share. And we should be drawing together like-minded evangelicals more than distancing ourselves from well-meaning liberals. So some questions for you to think about in reflection on this. How can you have a positive impact on your local partnership in your area? How can you benefit most from your local partnership? And what would be the best thing for your local partnership to do next? And if you don't know of one in existence, or you don't know who to get in touch with me and I'll help you out. But right now, thank you very much for listening, and I hope those questions are helpful for you in your ministries. Thank you.